Hashtag Trending would like to thank Meter for their support in bringing you this podcast. Meter delivers a complete networking stack, wired, wireless, and cellular in one integrated solution that's built for performance and scale. You can find them at meter.com/HTT. Amazon's AI generates $10 billion in additional revenue. Canada's D-Wave claims a practical quantum breakthrough. Dell drives a hard line on return to office, but workers are quietly pushing back, and the concept of privacy may be reaching its final end. 4 stories from this week. Welcome to Hashtag Trending. I'm your host, Jim Love. Let's get into it. For all of those who say they're not quantifiable benefits from AI, Amazon would beg to differ. Amazon said its AI shopping assistant, Rufus, has accounted for an additional $10 billion in revenue in the past year. The company reports that about 250 million customers have interacted with Rufus so far this year, and that shoppers who use the assistant are 60% more likely to complete a purchase than those who don't. Amazon tracks that impact using what it calls a downstream impact model, attributing purchases made within 7 days of an AI interaction back to Rufus. By that measure, the company believes the assistant will generate roughly $10 billion in incremental annualized sales. CEO Andy Jassy has pointed to that figure as evidence that conversational AI is reshaping how people shop online. Rufus sits directly inside the Amazon app, answering natural language questions, comparing products, and guiding customers through the purchasing decisions at exactly the moment they're most likely to buy. But independent research suggests the system's success may come with a trade-off. Multiple studies have found that Rufus recommendations are heavily self-serving, favoring Amazon's own interests over objective quality. In one analysis, Amazon Basics products appeared in 41% of results, even when competing products were rated higher by reviewers. Overall, researchers concluded that 83% of recommendations aligned more closely with Amazon's profit incentives than with identifying the best product for the shopper. That bias might ultimately contribute to a broader trust problem. Currently, only 12% of consumers say they trust AI to make purchases on their behalf, with concerns centered on privacy, data use, unapproved transactions, and fraud. But of these concerns, accuracy is the biggest sticking point. 79% of shoppers say it matters most. So the idea that this might skew to Amazon products could ultimately be an issue. In addition, testing shows AI shopping assistants identify the objectively best product only 32% of the time, with the rest optimized for margin rather than merit. What's also notable is how other retailers are responding. While Amazon tightly controls access from outside AI systems, Walmart and Target have allowed third-party AI tools to reference their products. In Walmart's case, they're estimating that traffic driven by ChatGPT now accounts for around 20% of referrals, according to industry reporting. Amazon is ultimately betting that control drives conversion. Others are betting that openness builds trust. As AI becomes the front door to online shopping, and as OpenAI is rumored to be testing AI-driven advertising, and Google is already a long way down that road, the use of AI is going to be a key strategic move in online retailing. Canada's D-Wave is claiming a scalable quantum breakthrough, and at this time, it might actually matter in real-world results. For years, quantum computing breakthroughs have sounded impressive but stayed theoretical, solving obscure math problems, but never really delivering any real-world results that could replace the so-called classical computers. There has been one exception to this. D-Wave has been used in some limited industrial applications, and now they say they've achieved what they call the first scalable, commercially relevant quantum advantage, using their annealing-based quantum computers to solve complex optimization problems faster and at a scale that classical systems struggle to match. The breakthrough centers on scalability, the problem that has quietly limited most quantum claims. D-Wave says it's demonstrated reliable performance as system size increases, rather than delivering isolated wins that collapse once workloads grow. In tests, its quantum systems were able to model and solve large optimization problems like traffic flow, logistics planning, and material sciences simulations without the exponential slowdown that plagues classical approaches. These are large and complex problems that do indeed have applications in the real world and are largely unsolvable using classical computing infrastructure. Now, it's important to note that D-Wave isn't chasing the same gate-based quantum model being pursued by companies like IBM or Google or others who are building large systems that are fragile and require cooling to almost absolute zero and need to be insulated from any outside interference. D-Wave is using what they call quantum annealing. It's a method designed specifically for optimization tasks. That narrower focus is ultimately its advantage. Rather than promising a universal quantum computer someday, D-Wave is positioning quantum as a near-term accelerator for real industrial problems. Still, the company is a public company and it's careful in its claims. This is not general-purpose quantum computing, and it doesn't replace classical systems. It may complement them, but customers may still need classical infrastructure to clean data and carefully framed problems to see the benefits. But that's exactly why some analysts see this as meaningful. It fits into existing enterprise workflows instead of asking companies to wait for a quantum future that may never quite arrive. If the results hold up under broader scrutiny, this could mark a shift in how quantum computing enters the market, not as a moonshot, but as a specialized tool that quietly solves hard problems behind the scenes. And for an industry long criticized for overpromising, restraint might be the most important signal of all. Dell has issued a blunt warning to employees who are not complying with its return-to-office policy, signaling that the company is prepared to enforce in-person work requirements more aggressively. According to a report by The Street, Dell told staff that continued non-compliance could carry consequences, reinforcing a policy that requires employees to be in the office multiple days per week. It's part of a broader shift among large employers who say that flexibility has gone too far and productivity, culture, and collaboration are suffering as a result. But enforcement is running into quiet resistance at Dell and well beyond it. Surveys show that 1 in 5 workers are not actually following their company's RTO rules, even when they say they are. Tactics range from faking badge swipes to show up early on attendance systems to coming in briefly and leaving early once presence has been logged. We've apparently come a long way from leaving your coat on the back of the chair. The pushback reflects what employees say they want. The majority of workers say their ideal schedule is 3 days in the office or fewer per week, and many see anything beyond that as a rollback of flexibility that became normal during the pandemic years. For them, remote and hybrid work isn't a perk, it's the default. And that sets up a real risk for employers. If companies begin cracking down hard on RTO compliance, 20% of workers say they would be very likely to quit, with another 33% saying they'd be somewhat likely to do so. How many of those are top performers is the open question. The tension is obvious. Executives want people back, but a large share of the workforce may be willing to walk rather than comply. Now, there's an irony here. For years, the common wisdom was that once flexible work became mainstream, it couldn't be reversed, that you couldn't simply roll back expectation and habits. But with massive layoffs continuing across the tech sector and job openings tightening, with the possibility of AI replacing white-collar workers, companies may be betting that leverage has shifted. The question is whether enforcing presence rebuilds engagement or just accelerates attrition. Finally, 4 unrelated stories this week pointing in the same direction. Privacy, already under attack by social media, giant ad networks, and the consolidation of information to data brokers, is further being eroded, often quietly, and often in ways people didn't meaningfully consent to. First, a group of major news organizations is asking courts to force OpenAI to preserve and potentially recover millions of deleted ChatGPT conversations. The argument is that those logs may contain evidence of copyright violations, even if users were told their chats could be deleted. Now, some of you may allow ChatGPT to remember your conversations. It's great for personalization. And you may have even checked a box that says ChatGPT can't learn from your conversations. But these lawsuits raise a question. What if OpenAI is forced to reveal your conversations? Right now, that's done for a group and supposedly anonymized, but we've all seen examples of how anonymous data can be de-anonymized. In Google's Gemini, if you want to have the system use your data, you don't even get the choice of checking the box that says the AI can't learn from it. Second story. European governments may be preparing to let the United States access their citizens' biometric databases. According to reporting by Euractiv, several EU countries are adjusting laws to allow U.S. authorities to tap fingerprints and facial recognition data for law enforcement purposes. That shifts biometric data from national safeguards into a shared international surveillance infrastructure. The U.S. government is also demanding that the EU citizens that want to come into the U.S. without visas must allow the government access to 5 years of social media data as another condition of entry. With that, and in the U.S. with the reputed consolidation of government information to make it easy to track all data on every citizen, the constraints of data privacy are being, at least, stretched. Another case, Google reportedly continues to push deeper into on-device content interpretation. A new update to Google Chrome on mobile improves reading experiences by analyzing and restructuring web content directly in the browser. And while this is framed as a usability win, it also means more user behavior, reading patterns, and content interactions are being processed and inferred at the browser level. And finally, there's an increase in biometric surveillance. We might think of this as something for border crossings or law enforcement, but I'm talking about in retail. A major U.S. grocery chain has begun using facial recognition and other biometric tools to track shoppers. And this is raising concerns about consent, data retention, and how long-term behavioral profiles may be built from something as routine as buying groceries. None of these are stories about privacy being removed overnight. They're about it being reinterpreted, about the edges becoming blurred. Logs become evidence. Biometrics become shareable. Browsers become intermediaries. And stores become sensors. Each step is incremental, defensible on its own, but easy to ignore. Now, no one disagrees that we gave away a massive amount of our information to get free social media access. We continue to do that so that entertainment can be tailored directly to us. In all of this, Europe has been a bastion of privacy, but it seems that even they are willing to bend in the name of convenience and possibly commerce. So now, more and more, the concept of privacy seems like some quaint, old-fashioned idea. Maybe the poet T.S. Eliot had the right idea. He said, the world would end not with a bang, but a whimper. Certainly, barring some real reversal of this trend, that could be the case with privacy. And that's our show for today. Once again, we'd like to thank Meter for their support in bringing you this podcast. Meter delivers a full-stack networking infrastructure, wired, wireless, and cellular to leading enterprises. And working with their partners, Meter designs, deploys, and manages everything required to get performant, reliable, and secure connectivity in a space. They design the hardware, the firmware, they build the software, they manage deployments, and they even run support. It's a single integrated solution that scales from branch offices to warehouses and large campuses to data centers. Book a demo at meter.com/HTT. That's meter.com/HTT. I'm your host, Jim Love. Have a thrilling Thursday.